You're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room from a pile of stuff.
Give me a full ballerina skirt and a hint of saloon, and I'm on board.
I can't go back.
Welcome to the She Became Visible podcast. I'm your host, Renee Steelman. This podcast is my story. It's your story. It's our story. It's all the stories of all the women who one day knew that it was time to remember who they were, who they are, and stand up and be seen. Hello, my She Became Visible ladies. It is February 4th. How are we doing? How are you doing? Do you still have that motivation that you had back on January 1? Or have you dipped a little bit? I know there's some kind of a Jupiter in Aquarius with Pisces in retrograde thing going on out there. But we're not going to think about that. We're just going to keep on keeping on, right? We're just going to keep on trying. So today we're going to do a quick little catch up. I just want to make sure that all of my ladies, all of my She Became Visible followers are on track for the best year of their lives, 2025. I want that to be the best year and maybe the beginning of the best years of your life. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about menopause and perimenopause and hormone replacement therapy. Because ladies, I'm telling you, if you are struggling with losing weight or maybe even being what they call skinny fat, and you just can't see changes in your body, it's because of your hormones. And I love the science that is out there now, ladies. There's so much out there. The people, especially the beautiful women out there, are awakening the community to the fact that we are different. We are different than men. Cold plunges are different for us than they are for men. Fasting is different for us than it is for men. Everything we do, our cycles completely control how energetic we are, how tired we are, our emotions. Everything is, we are different and we need to accept that. And so I'm just here today. It's February 4th, 2025. And I want to do two things. I want to remind you, I want to motivate you to stay in the boat, stay in the wagon, stay on course, whatever little cliche you want to use. I want you to get back on the goal journey that you set for yourself back in January. And I have to tell you, I heard a quote. I think it was from Dr. Michael Israelty, who I love, and I always pronounce his name wrong. But he said, if people come to me and they say, I need some motivation, what kind of motivation can you give me to get myself up and out into the gym? He says, I can't, because you have to be motivated yourself. No one else can motivate you. I'm telling you, all of the little tricks that they have out there on the internet saying things like, call up a girlfriend, make a date, make an arrangement that you and your girlfriend will walk every day. Eventually, you will find a way to get out of that if you're not motivated to make a change in your life. And I'll tell you something else. If you don't get your hormones in check, you will lose your motivation because you won't see a difference. And that's what motivates you. What motivates you is success, right? I mean, when you start working out and you see a difference in your body, that is the motivation that you need. And if you are going through menopause or perimenopause and your body is not giving you the results that you want, you're going to lose all your motivation. Why should you put yourself through this torture, right? So I want to just share with you again some fabulous teachers out there that I have found that have so much wonderful information for you. And I have to tell you, I think we are definitely going through, and I'm talking about the world right now, there's a lot of stuff going on. And if you are prone to nihilism, it might be a really hard time for you right now. And I have to tell you, having left a fundamental high demand religion, I'm walking two paths. I'm still watching informational videos on the religion that I left, and I'm also watching political videos on the world, the nation that I live in. And both of these power structures are frightening because in both scenarios, we're talking about a lot of power, a lot of misogyny, and a lot of money behind the power. And it's absolutely frightening. So I understand if you're really struggling right now. And the biggest thing is self-care. And even if the only thing you can do right now is get up and go for a walk, I really encourage you to do that and to try to move. Just trying to move makes all the difference in the world. So that's my motivation for today, February 4th. So let's get going here. Let's talk about, I want to introduce you now. How many of you, I wish you were all sitting in a room. How many of you have heard of Chalene Johnson? I love her. And what I love about her is she is a lot younger than I am, but she has gone through a lot of the same stages that I've gone through because she was really big in Beachbody. And she talks about how even though she was in really great shape, they would tell her that she was fat and that she needed to lose weight. And she was on camera, right? So she had to look a certain way, and how she would starve herself to death. And then she got on to some other things. And now she's found, like all of us, that strength training is the key to changing your body and being the strong woman that you want to be for longevity. She has found that. And so she brings experts onto her show. And so I want to start out with one of Chalene's latest YouTubes, where she brings an expert on to talk about hormone replacement therapy. So let's bring on Chalene.
Helping women understand what's going on reproductively, to understand their sexual health, to understand what they can do to optimize their health. She works in person with these women every single day. My friend and friend of the show, Dr. Kelly Casperson. Fact or menopausal myth? Symptoms end once you're officially in menopause.
No, that's a myth. So symptoms, there's like 30 or 50, depending upon who you want to talk to, symptoms of menopause. And remember, menopause, the definition of menopause is no more periods after a year of no more periods. So that's menopause. What it means, though, is profound loss of the hormone producing cells of the ovary. So your symptoms can just keep going. A lot of women will start having symptoms years after menopause and they have no idea it's because of profound low hormones. So you are not in a symptom-free zone just because you haven't had periods for a year. That's a myth.
Okay. Fact or menopausal myth? Natural remedies are always safer than hormone replacement therapies.
That's a myth. So remember, in America, the supplement industry is completely unregulated. Oftentimes there's stuff in there that can be bad for your liver. In addition, a lot of things on the label aren't even in the package. So I would say it can be buyer beware, right, for supplements, or people think of supplements as like natural. Also, natural things like having a healthy diet, exercising, prioritizing sleep, all very good for you, do tend to decrease things like hot flashes, but none of that works as good as hormones. And if you think about it, our natural hormones, what our body makes naturally, what is more natural than that? Some people just don't like the idea of taking a medication every day. They think that's unnatural, but you're actually just putting back what your body made, like insulin, thyroid, vitamin D, all those things that our body naturally makes, but we supplement when we're low.
Okay. Fact or menopausal myth? If your practitioner says that you are not a candidate for HRT, they know more than you, so just zip it and deal with it.
That's usually a myth. Most people, and I'm overgeneralizing, but we have data to support this, most doctors did not get trained in the profound hormone changes when a woman ends her periods. So they usually don't know unless they got specifically trained. So feel free to see a second opinion. Feel free to seek out somebody who has taken advanced classes or has had training in menopause, because most doctors don't know, and they're often overly conservative, which is good, but it's usually because they aren't up to date with the current data.
Okay. So that is just a little, I want you to go and find Chalene on YouTube and watch the rest of that. One of the things that she said though, which I really want to stress, is there is especially with women, because women, I believe, have an authority thing. We really trust authority, which is why abuse is so rampant with women, is because we're trusting. And if somebody has initials behind their name, we take their word as word from God. And what I have found, and I've mentioned this before, but having been the mother and caregiver of a severely disabled child, I learned quickly that I had to advocate for myself, and that just because they have done a certain amount of schooling does not mean that they are up to date on the current things that are known out there scientifically. And I know that seems odd, but it's true. And let me give you a perfect example. Many of you will recognize, for those of us that have male partners, spouses, whatever, boyfriends, men don't like to go to the doctor, and they usually don't go until they're like an hour and a half away from being dead. So my husband is very good about getting his yearly Medicare checkup. And so he went in, they did some blood work, and they came back and they told him that he was pre-diabetic. And now I've tried to kind of not be a naggy wife, but I've tried to say to him, you eat way too much fruit. And I know the things that you buy at Costco might say organic, but they are filled with sugar. For example, he loves the tub of grapefruit that you can get at Costco. He loves it. And I say to him, this grapefruit is swimming in sugar water. And he doesn't believe me. So he goes to the doctor, and now he's told, oh, guess what? You're pre-diabetic. And the doctor, after his blood work came back, sent him through email, sent him the results of his blood work. He didn't call him. He just mailed it to him. And his recommendations for his pre-diabetes was to watch your carbs. What does that mean? What does that mean? So I said to my husband, yeah, you've got to stop eating as much fruit. Now, see, he is under the impression that fruit is good for you. Fruit is healthy, which is true. But if any of you are insulin dependent diabetic or have been diagnosed as pre-diabetic, you will know that you have to watch your fruit intake because of the fructose. And so he was not even aware. And I said, fruit is a carbohydrate. And he said, it is? That's where the doctor world is. When she says doctors have not gone through nutritional training, not only have they not gone through it, they don't even bother to take the time to train their patients or to tell them. So he gives them the results of this test, but there's absolutely no course of getting better. He doesn't give him a healing course. He just says, hey, these are your results. We'll test you again in 6 months. He doesn't say, and so now this is what we're going to do. There's no follow-up. And I think women they have more of a tendency to take a hold of that and say, well, what am I going to do? And then they'll start reading and watching YouTubes and things like that. Men don't do that usually. So if you have a partner, you may have to step in and be the voice for them. So I thought a lot of her things. And again, I love what she said about the, once you've gone through menopause, you're still going to have some symptoms. I remember when I first started hormone replacement therapy and I first started taking progesterone and I got that first really good night's sleep. It was like, oh, this is amazing. So I'm really encouraging. Okay, so let's bring on now. I've talked before about Dr. Peter Attia. I love him. So let's look at some of the things he has to say.
It's about estrogen therapy for women, menopause, and hormone therapies generally for women, maybe even testosterone therapy. You hear about that these days. And then we'll talk about men.
So our practice is probably 70-30 male, female. So we have lots of women, and this is a very important topic. It's also probably, let me think. I just want to make sure I'm not being hyperbolic when I say this. Yep, I don't think I am. It's hands down the biggest screw up of the entire medical field in the last 25 years. Now, again, it's possible in the next hour I'll think of, nope, there's a bigger screw up. But
another giant screw up.
But I don't think I will. I'm pretty confident that I won't be able to think of a bigger act of incompetence than what happened with the Women's Health Initiative in the late 90s and early 2000s, which is effectively the study that turned the entire medical field off hormone replacement therapy for women. So it's important, I think, to explain what this study looked at. So this was
Okay, so if I wanted to, and I think I brought this up once before, what Dr. Attia is talking about is they did a study back in, like you said, the late 90s, early 2000s, and they said that hormone replacement therapy, estrogen consumption was causing breast cancer and other forms of cancer. And it scared the medical profession, and they completely stopped giving women estrogen. And so Dr. Attia goes through how that study was flawed. It really was a major screw up and has put women in my demographic, because this was done in the late 90s, early 2000s, women in my demographic, 50, 60, 70, they have been, they've lost the opportunity to take hormone replacement therapy in their perimenopause or menopausal state. And so there's a lot of things that you really do have to take in your perimenopausal state, in your 30s and 40s, for it to make a big difference. And even though it's still great at my age, it would have been better if I would have known about it earlier. And so that's what he's talking about. And the strange thing is, Dr. Casper, the doctor that Shalene introduced you to, she is talking about how the Amazon now has a pharmacy. And if you get your hormones through the Amazon pharmacy, it's actually coming with a warning label saying that estrogen causes breast cancer. And it's completely flawed. It's completely flawed. And the problem is, we live in a very litigious universe. In America, suing a corporation, a doctor, a healthcare system is so rampant because, and it ends up costing you money. You may think you're going to get millions off of some kind of medical failure, but you end up, the lawyer wins, and you might get pittance compared to the struggle that you're going to go through. So anyway, it's really, this study did a lot of damage, and that's what Dr. Attia is talking about. Let me fast forward this a little bit.
It was conducted in response to the widely held belief in the 70s and 80s that women should be placed on hormones as they're going through menopause, right? Menopause is, I guess.
Let me fast forward this a little bit.
Low dose of progesterone, all PMS symptoms vanish.
Very interesting. I'll have to look up where the progesterone receptors are located in the brain. The Allen Brain Institute now has beautiful data of in situ hybridization, which for folks that don't understand is looking at RNA and sort of where genes and proteins ought to be expressed in the human brain by using actual human brain tissue sections as opposed to just mice. So I'll take a look. I think give us some insight into what that progesterone emotionality link might be and where it might exist neural circuit wise.
So then when the estrogen and progesterone reach their nadir again, that starts the cycle. So that cycle is happening over and over and over again.
Okay, sometimes Dr. Weissman and Peter together, they end up,
the other thing is,
because of the,
this is kind of weird.
Dr.
Although again, I understand their rationale for it, but this is a great example of be very careful when you look at a clinical trial that it remotely represents the patients you're interested in treating. So they also treated no patients who were symptomatic. The rationale being, if we include in the study patients who are symptomatic, those who are randomized to placebo will drop out.
Okay, so what he's talking about here is he's saying whenever and you hear this all the time, clinical studies have shown, and what he's saying is you really have to pay attention to who the people were and what their health situation was when they entered this clinical study. Because what he was saying was they did not take in women that had their uteruses removed. And they also were very timid to take in women that were suffering through menopausal symptoms and give them a placebo. And so they just didn't really take a random assortment of women. And the study was so bad. It was so bad, and it did so much damage. And if you have an older doctor, they might still be reflecting back to that study, that clinical study that was done. And you need to go somewhere else. And just like, Shalene's doctor, Dr. Casper, was saying, you need to get another opinion. You maybe need to go to a naturopath or some other source to find somebody who really, they have hormone clinics right now, people that are really professional. So let's move on to another interview that Dr. Attia did with Jill Michelson. Michelson, is that her name? Why am I messing that up? So let's watch this.
This doesn't get enough attention. So the probability of a person falling when they're 65 and up is about 25%. That once you reach the age of 65, you've got about a 25% chance in your lifetime of having a fall. And somewhere between 10 to 15% of those falls could be fatal if you break your hip or femur.
Why is that fatal? I don't mean to take you down a long path. Is it because you can't get out of bed, or what is and it's like all broke down, she's gone.
Yeah.
What is that?
There's the short-term reasons, because the fatality stats are usually within the first year. And so it's not just like you die.
The impact over time of how it limits your mobility. And got it. Never mind. I'm with you. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like if you took a 20-year-old and put them in bed for a month, they'd recover. When you take a 70-year-old and put them in bed for a month, it's very difficult to recover.
Okay, so I mentioned this in my podcast that I did with, I think it was Dr. Lacey. And I like what Dr. Attia is saying, because I know you've all heard this. Over the age of 65, what did he say? 25% chance of falling. And if you fall and break a hip or a femur, then you have a year to live. And what he's saying is, it's not so much healing, of course, because you're older, but being stationary, being put to bed for a month. And then what are the other things? What happens when you just lay in bed? So maybe you're not eating properly. You're just not getting your blood, everything. It's just a mess. And so it's not the fall itself. It's the care that is completely lost when you have a fall over the age of 65. And so what they're going on to talk about is how important skeletal muscle is. And so that you can catch yourself, you can prevent yourself from falling. And if you have a good skeletal muscle ratio, your ability to heal is quicker, and you can move and get out of bed. So that's basically what he's saying. Let me see if there's any other tidbits we need to talk about.
Enough said.
Yeah.
Okay.
So women are disproportionately at risk for falls. They're about 2x the risk because they have less muscle mass. They tend to be on average less active, and they have weaker bones. So the reason for this is estrogen is the most important hormone in bone health. So the way bone.
Okay, did you hear that? They have weaker bones because estrogen is so important in bone health. So now we're talking estrogen replacement, bone health, healing from a fall. All of these things go together. There are so many things. And that's the part that I really want to bring out here, is that it's not so much just your mood or the hot flashes or the night sweats. Yes, that's fine. But taking estrogen is your bone health, your hair, your skin, everything else that's really more important maybe even than night sweats, right? So that's the part that they don't tell you when you're inquiring about hormone replacement.
Work is they have little, for lack of a better word, strain gauges in them. So strain gauge is like, it's not an actual strain gauge, that's a term we use in engineering, but a strain gauge is something that detects deformation.
Okay.
So when you pick up something really heavy, your femur, your bones experience deformation. They're being shrunk slightly. The body, through estrogen, and estrogen is the chemical signal that transmits that information, which is there is deformation, to the cells that remodel and build bone. So both for men and for women, estrogen is hands down the most important hormone in bone health.
Okay, so that I find that really fascinating. And I think, and that's the other thing that people don't understand, both men and women, their bodies. And so when he's talking about healing and muscle strength and skeletal strength, all of these chemicals, all of these hormones rather, are so important in keeping our body healthy for longevity. And so it's fascinating. Now, I love Dr. Attia, but he does have a tendency to get very doctory. And so there are times when you're just kind of like, okay, when you're listening to him, but I love him. So let's go on to, I love Katie Couric, and she's got some fun people on her podcast. So let's listen to what she has to say.
Question from Lisa Luck. She asks, and this is a question I'd like to know too, how long can a woman safely be on HRT without putting herself at a higher cancer risk? My doctor suggested I go off them after 5 years, and I miss them so much. I hear you, Lisa. There are so many mixed messages about this. Thank you.
So there are mixed messages. And again, the follow-up data to the WHI showed that whether or not someone was on estrogen or progesterone or estrogen alone, you looked 18 years out and the safety data was actually very good. There was no increased morbidity or mortality in either group. My feeling is if somebody is well, I will not take them off of hormones after 5 years. There are proven benefits. Now, we're not supposed to say one uses hormones for primary disease prevention, and the United States Preventive Service Task Force just came out with a statement stating that hormones are not for primary disease prevention, but we do know that hormones really do help keep a woman's cardiovascular risk low, particularly when the estrogen's used transdermally. And in addition, it helps bone. We know that that's very important, and lowers one's risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So I really feel strongly that the use of menopausal hormone therapies absolutely has to be individualized. And it's something I discuss with my patients annually. And if someone should develop a contraindication or a reason why they can't be on hormones, I will take them off of them. I try to really shift my patients, particularly as they're getting into their 60s, if they've been on an oral formulation, to consider transdermal estradiol because it really has a safer profile. We don't have to worry about changes in lipid profiles. We don't have to worry about clotting. So that data is really, really reassuring. But when I have patients on hormones, I do not have an endpoint in mind. And that rule about 5 years is passé, if you will.
So much information out there. And that's so important what she's saying, because I have struggled with estrogen. I have to tell you, my body is very sensitive to estrogen, and I have had to go to the transdermal method to use my estradiol, because when I took it orally, I really had a lot of problems with it. And so, you really have to find out what works for you. So, I think that's really important. And if you can find a physician as wonderful as these examples that I've shown you here, keep looking, just keep looking. And really, I think nowadays there are so many specifically hormonal treatment clinics that are opening up to help you find what you need to live out your best life. So I hope that's been really helpful for you today. I wanted to just remind you that sometimes you are doing your absolutely very best, but we need the help sometimes of some outside sources to reach our goals. And I really want to encourage you to do that. So what have you done today? Did you do any strength training? Did you get your walk in? And please remember that I do not work under a paywall. I will not ever ask for Venmo or donations of any kind. All I ask is that you subscribe. So if you will please subscribe and like and share with your sisters, share with your friends, your moms, your daughters, your aunts, and share and talk and get together and email me and let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything you'd like for me to research for you. I would love to do that. So gograydame@gmail.com is my email. And I would love to get email from you. I am also on TikTok. I have a great following on TikTok. I am on Instagram @gograydame. And so you can, write me, ask me some questions, and I'll see if I can dig into it and find some answers. But anyway, so on this beautiful February 4th, I am now going to go out, and let me tell you where I'm going. Okay, I'm not being sponsored, but do you see these beautiful bracelets? These beautiful crystals? Okay, the beautiful woman who makes these bracelets, Love 13. Google Love 13. And she's having a party today here in Arizona, so I'm going to be going and looking at her bracelets. But this one, this one here is extremely special because I took some of my son's ashes. Our youngest son died. He developed MRSA, and the bacteria had gone into his heart. He was severely disabled, and he passed away on Christmas morning, 2022. And I took his ashes. And Heather was able, I don't know if you can see it, to make a bead with his ashes. And that's that. So this particular, and then it has the little, let me get around this microphone. It has the little angel wing on there. And so I have 2 or 3 bracelets that have his ashes. And it really means a lot to me. So I love her. And so I really would encourage you to get on her website, Love 13, look at her bracelets. They come in all the different minerals, all the different stones. And I can never remember which stone is which and which power or crystal thing it's supposed to send to you, because I am afraid I really just pretty much do it by color. But anyway, so I'm on my way to one of her parties, and I'm excited I haven't seen her for a long time. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the day. So let me know what you're doing. So have a great day. Thank you for joining me on She Became Visible, and we will see you again next week. Bye-bye.